There are only a couple of events each year in the off-campus student housing industry that bring all of the industry leaders together. The annual Interface Student Housing Conference is the largest event for the industry. 2024 marks the 16th year for this conference and is being held April 24th through the 27th at the JW Marriott in Austin, Texas. This is the premier event for student housing professionals, bringing together leaders from all facets of the sector, including owners, operators, investors, lenders, and university partners. The conference features the industry's best and brightest minds all under one roof, delivering the knowledge, tools, programs, and connections necessary for leaders to shape their future success and the future of the student housing industry. So who are some of the folks attending this year's conference? Let's meet one of them right now. Holly and Caroline, I hear you guys are going to Austin.
Yes, that's right. We are excited.
So is this going to be, someone told me this may be your first time.
It is, but we've heard rumor there is a really cool bat tunnel that we should check out.
There is.
Can you tell us about that and maybe some good places to go eat?
So I've seen the bats. I don't know if I was actually at the bat tunnel, but there along the river that, flows right behind the JW, there's a bridge there, and I've seen bats there before, and I've seen them, flying, but something about the bats, I'm just not that comfortable.
Right. I think maybe there's a certain time of night you shouldn't go through the tunnel when they're active, perhaps.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, hey, for the folks in our audience who have never heard of 10xDigital, really quick, if you could kind of go through just a little bit of background on what it is that you guys do, and let's talk a little bit about your experience.
Sure. So I'm Holly Rollins, founder of 10x, and this is my very talented partner, Caroline Liller, who is VP of 10x. And we've been around for 20 plus years, and we are a full service digital marketing firm. And full service means we do everything from develop websites, content, and SEO to even Big Brother targeting with programmatic advertising.
I love the Big Brother targeting because you and I had a long conversation about that. I'm super excited about some ways that we may be able to use that. But let's get a little bit of background on student housing, because you guys are involved in a lot of things, but student housing is something that's really near and dear.
Yes, we focus, or very well known for both student and senior housing, and our depth of experience goes way back, longer than I care to say, at least 15 years of our 20 years in business in student housing. And I was involved in two startups, one Campus Crest that some of you may know about, and it actually went public in 2010. It was CCG on the New York Stock Exchange. So I was involved in the very beginning. I even put some of my own money into the project very early on, and we managed, more than 90,000 beds. It was national, and then with the Vallejo group, it was international, and we helped with that startup as well. And with both of those entities, we've done full service marketing and have quite the track record with both of those, as well as some other student housing projects.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned the startup, because even starting up a property, it's like starting up a new company. You want every property to have its own kind of identity, right?
Right.
You have to put a lot into that marketing, but starting a company like Vallejo and Campus Crest, I mean, there was a lot that I'm sure had to go behind all of that brand creation and everything else. So that's magnificent. I'm sure there were a lot of late nights pondering about
that. And I can't take credit for all of the startup minutia, but we can say that we were there with a lot of the marketing and even the branding of both, even the naming of both of those entities, and then full service from there, from website development to content to very important SEO, kind of the back end of a website, kind of like, under the hood. You need to make sure that all of that's working correctly to be found by the students and their parents. And then marketing with advertising, and then these newer platforms like the programmatic. That's very important to stay on trend with the latest tools out there, because student housing, you definitely have to keep up with the latest generation, and everything from TikTok to the content that they and their parents will pay attention to. So we are very focused on staying on point with the marketing so that the right kind of messaging goes out to the right audience.
Well, I want to ask you a little bit about the international exposure, with Vallejo, because something about this conference that, it has become, an international conference to
I hear that.
a large degree. And,
Uh-huh.
a lot of it has been on the investment side, but this year is the first year that I'm seeing a lot of operators, that are coming from Canada and from Europe. You've worked in you've had properties in Canada and properties in Europe. What is that process like? Hopefully you can do that kind of quickly, but what
Sure.
is kind of that process of getting into, American students are one thing, but then getting into the minds of students in Canada and across the pond? There's so many other things to consider. What is that process like?
Well, first with any community, we make sure we do an in-depth discovery. And with the startups, of course, we were there discovering in the very, very beginning to make sure that the model would fly in those markets. But with Europe and all of the other international markets, we make sure we do all of the benchmarking and look at all the analysis that was done before it was developed. And then once you get into the market, you put together a plan based on all of your findings. And so then you have to make sure that your messaging is on point with the culture, because as you mentioned, the American properties are going to be different from other countries. And Caroline can actually speak to that as far as working with, for instance, the European properties, and some of the things we did there a little bit differently and more in depth in certain ways than with some American properties.
Yeah. And I think, as Holly mentioned, it's all about learning your market first and foremost, but a lot of the same tactics really apply across the board. I mean, if you don't have a website that's user friendly or mobile friendly, then you're just losing the students right away. It doesn't matter where you are. And then with some of our other tactics, I mean, Google Ads has consistently been a main lead driver, no matter where you are in the world. Then, there are some nuances here and there, but I think a lot of the international markets really look to the U.S. From the student housing landscape and use them as a benchmark. So we're able to kind of use what we know here and then even apply things in those markets that maybe they haven't tried before, or, were unsuccessful in the past. So we bring a lot to the table when it comes to that. And we're also extremely responsive. I know sometimes hiring an agency, outside of where you're located, you might worry about that, but we're very responsive and would get on, their time zones on their time, and really just try to be their partner with marketing and advertising. So we are excited as well to meet a lot of those new faces at the conference that are coming to learn and, benchmark the U.S.
Well, let's talk a little bit. You started talking about, being on different time zones, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure there's always a discussion when you're working with those type of accounts, between the team
Mm-hmm.
on, who's doing what. So tell us a little bit about the team.
Yeah. So we have almost 20 team members spread out all throughout the U.S. in different time zones. And we have, an entire content team dedicated to that, and then a development team as well, social media, public relations. And then, a really big key player of ours is our digital ad strategist. He used to work at Google as a former employee, so many years ago, but he still has a lot of great connections. And we really lean on him to lead a strong ad strategy for all of our clients and get results, because as I mentioned, that is such a big factor in the student industry, to get those leads. So yeah, we have a really robust team, and we're all spread out, and we were using Zoom before COVID ever occurred.
That's always a good talent to have.
Yeah.
So, looking at your website, what part of your tagline is being data driven? Tell me a little bit about what all that encompasses.
Yeah. So we, as an agency, we're extremely focused on data metrics and high ROI for each community. We know that some other agencies maybe don't focus on that as much, or tying it back together for the full picture of where your marketing dollars are going, what's working, what's not. So we have a digital dashboard that we use where we plug in every single, key other dashboards such as Google Ads, Google Analytics, all of your social media accounts, your advertising. It's all pulled into one dashboard so that you have a snapshot, a 24/7 live link where you can look at how your performance is. You can adjust, your view, whether it's the past 30 days or the past quarter compared to last year. So it's very comprehensive, and all of our clients have that at their fingertips. So we knew, several years ago that we would really need to focus on data to make decisions. And ultimately, that's the beauty of digital marketing. You can make adjustments on the fly according to the data. So that really just drives all of our strategy for every client.
And a lot of our clients really prioritize that, and many times hire us over other agencies because we are so data focused, and we can really track all your analytics, and then obviously your results, and make sure that you're getting the leases that all of this marketing is around for. That's the end goal.
Yeah, it's amazing because so much of the data that we're seeing, on the leasing part of it, obviously backs into the marketing part of it. And if you're not checking that data and have a good way of viewing that on a daily basis, you don't know how to make those kind of minute changes in order to really capitalize. So fantastic that you guys do that. But yeah, we're looking forward to seeing you guys down there. Thanks so much for being a sponsor of our brunch and live podcast that we're doing on Wednesday morning. Excited to see you guys there for that. And any other parting words for our folks?
No, we just look forward to meeting a lot of good people there. And thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, we will put your contact information and everything in the show notes. And I think we've also got a QR code that we'll show here at the end of the screen where folks want to set up an appointment with you. They can do that.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Wes.
See you in Austin.
See you there.
Bye now.
Bye.